Hello, everybody. This is Zolor, Guildmaster of Pinnacle.
Hello, I'm Rexstein. I'm an assist of Pinnacle. And we're gonna explain the tactics for Rhyolith. Exclusive to Molten servers.
And this is a fun boss. It's a challenge because of the dynamics that's there with the legs. But it can be really fun to do, and is a great boon to morale when you finally get it down. One thing about the boss starts with armor on, like a thick coat of armor that reduces the damage he receives. So you cannot start out by just killing the boss. You have to get the armor taken off the boss. And the way you do that is by hitting the boss's legs and driving the boss across volcanoes. And so he'll stump. The volcanoes will pop up from the ground. And when the volcanoes pop up, they'll either be active or inactive. An active volcano will have a stream of lava shooting out up into the air, and an inactive one would just be sitting there. So if you run them over an inactive volcano, that's not going to really do anything, but it's going to stop that volcano from becoming active. But it's only when you run them over an active volcano that his armor comes off. Another thing about that is, if you do not run him over an active volcano and you leave that volcano active, that active volcano will put stacks of increasing damage on the raid. So it targets specific members, but all you have to really know is the longer a volcano is active that he does not run over it, the more damage the raid is going to take. So if you're not familiar with steering the legs, then the raid is going to end up getting a whole lot of stacks and they're going to wipe. So I'm going to spend a lot of detail talking about how to steer the legs to help out with that aspect. And go ahead and take it away, Rexstein, with the ads.
For this fight, we have two kind of ads. We have a big one ad called the Spark of Rhyolith, and he does an AoE damage, so the tank must move him away from the raid, and range DPSers must kill him, while melee DPSers just stay with the healers. Or they can help the one who's steering the legs if he needs help. The other ads, they are like the Spark of Rhyolith. They are like 5 small ads, and you can AoE them really fast.
So ads are really easy, except for if the tank does not pull the ads away from the raid, then that's going to cause some really, really bad problems. So you just have to make sure the big ad, the Spark.
Especially if you have a lot of stacks from the volcanoes.
Very true. So it's a combination of managing the ads and managing the stacks on the raid by properly steering the boss. But as long as you make sure that you have you only need one tank, just have that tank grab that ad and pull it away from the raid, then that'll be fine. And we'll go into talking about steering the legs, and I made some images here to help y'all out with it. And what we can do, I'm just going to cut this part out here. Cut right here. I know where to cut it. So right now we're at 4 minutes. So it's actually going to be a bit longer than 5 minutes, but try to make it as short as I can. So why don't we do this? Is overspinning him. What happens is, of course, the boss has 2 legs. If you hit the right leg, he'll start to get spin on his right leg and start to turn to the right. And if you hit his left leg, he will start to get spin on his left leg and turn to the left. So the boss starts with no spin, neutral, like this image shows at the top on the left. And in this instance, it shows me starting to hit him on the left leg. So I'm hitting him on the left leg, which meaning I'm facing the boss, and I'm hitting the boss's left leg, which is the leg to the right side of me, and he starts to turn to the left. Now, since he has spin on his left leg, when I start hitting his right leg, he's not going to immediately start turning to the right. He's going to start taking the spin off the left. So the trick to turning him properly is, let's say you have a volcano right behind him. So the boss starts off by walking straight. When you first start the fight, the boss has no spin. He's walking straight at you. And let's say there's a volcano directly behind him. This is an example. This will probably never happen, but this is an example. What you need to do is, let's say, spin the left leg so that he's starting to turn to the left. And when he's halfway to the left, then you start hitting the opposite leg to straighten him up. So you hit one leg to turn him. When he's halfway in that direction, halfway to where you want him to go, then you start hitting the other leg to straighten him out. So then by the time he's facing the direction you want him to go, there's no spin on the leg. That's one way to do it. And that's a more experienced way to do it. An easier way to start doing it is to always keep spin on the leg. So let's say you start off the boss and there's a volcano to the left. You spin him to the left. And what you do is you keep the boss going around to the left, but you manage how much he spins to the left. So if you look at the image again, he's halfway, half a spin, half of that bar, the left bar is filled. So if the bar was completely filled, he would be spinning in place. And if the bar has no spin, he's going straight. So if the bar is halfway, he'll be on a nice turn to where he'll kind of walk in a circle around the room almost endlessly. So when you get him in that half spin where he's walking around a room pretty gingerly, if a volcano is slightly to the left, you can hit the left leg and turn him to the left a bit, then hit the right leg and straighten him up a bit. So he'll still be going to the left overall, but he'll kind of wiggle to the right a bit or wiggle to the left a bit if you just put a little bit of spin back and forth. So, and what I'll do, I'll take questions from somebody after they watch this video, and I may add a follow-up segment, or maybe I should just get him in right now and see if he has any questions for me, because this is pretty difficult to explain. Go ahead.
I fill up the bar halfway to the left, right? Mm-hmm. So then he's spinning, but not spinning as much as he would if it was full. So then if I tap his right leg a bit, then he'd start walking straight again, right?
Well, you know, what we normally do is, like, we have one person who will be the person that really is steering the leg. So, and we have a few people in the guild, like, I could do it, and I taught one of my officers to do it. So we steer the leg. We're the steering person. And what you want to do is you want to designate one other person to help you steer. So I think one mistake a lot of people do is, which you can do when you get more experienced, but initially you don't want to have the whole raid try to steer because they'll put too much spin on it. So what you really want to do is have one person who's going to be the primary spinner, and normally that person will be only hitting the leg by himself. But if you have to put a hard spin on it, then you call one other person that you designate to help out. So for instance, I might be the designated leg person, and if I need help on the legs, I'll designate at the start of the raid, okay, Rexton, only Rexton will help me with the legs. If I call help me on the left, only Rexton will help, and that'll eliminate a lot of spin. So in the tactic where you keep some spin on it where it's going in one direction, in that instance, you don't want to hit him to the right till he's going straight. If you imagine, if you have a little bit of spin, if you have a half a bar spin, he's like making a circle around the room. Like if it's full, he spins right in place. If the bar is completely filled up, he's just turning around in one spot. He's going to stand right there and spin in place, right? But if the bar is about, of course, if there's no spin, if it's empty, he's just going to walk straight. He's going to walk straight ahead. So you put about a halfway spin on there, and you just leave it there, you'll just see him make a circle around the room. Like if you put about a half spin, it's not exactly a half, but if you play with it, you will see that little sweet spot where if you put just this much spin, maybe a little more than a half, a little less than a half, but somewhere in the middle, he will just walk around the room. He will just keep walking around the room. He won't go over the edge to the lava. He won't cross the center of the room. He will just walk around the room. So if you get him to that point, let's say he's just making that journey around the room, and you see he's walking toward a volcano, but that volcano is just a little bit to the left of where he's going to be. Then you just hit that left leg a bit, which means he will tighten up his spin to the left. Then when he hits that volcano, then you hit the right leg again. Like he's making that gingerly walk again. You know, you see how I'm saying? And then let's say he's making that gingerly walk around the room, and the volcano is a bit to the right. So you hit that right leg a bit. So he's veering to the right a bit more. Then when he hits that volcano, you hit the left leg again. Now he's making that gingerly walk all the way around the room. So that's one tactic where you just keep spin on the leg, where he's constantly going around the room, but you kind of just wiggle him back and forth. So one way to think about it is if you imagine the room and you imagine some circles around the room, like imagine that the room is broken into lanes. And let's say there's the outer lane that's right there by the edge of the lava. And then there's the inner lane that's pretty much a circle in the middle of the room. If you have him walking along the line in between those two lanes, then you could just, let's say if you're going to the left, so you have that left bar filled halfway. So he's kind of walking in a circle on the line around the room. And if you just hit that right leg a bit, then he'll kind of veer outside the line. And then if you hit the left leg a bit, he'll veer back to the line. Or if he's walking around that line and you hit the left leg, he'll veer inward of the line. And then you hit the right leg till he gets back to the line again. So if you just get him on that little spin, you can kind of wiggle him back and forth, even though he still has left spin the whole fight. So basically, and this is just one way to do it. So basically the fight is starting. You see a volcano, an active volcano to his right, for instance. So of course you hit the right leg. But since you started with the right leg, you keep that right leg with a certain amount of spin. And let's say I have about that much spin on the left leg. That means he's going to be walking around the room just a bit. He'll be gingerly walking around the room, just on that line in between those two lanes. So I see a volcano a bit to the right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the right leg some. So that's going to take spin off the left. So now he's going to veer a bit outward towards the edge. Boom. So he just walked across that volcano. So now I hit the left leg again. And let's say I'm going to hit him a bit more. So now he's heading back inward towards the line again. So then when he's back on the line, then I hit the right leg again. And now he's making his gingerly spin again. But the whole time he has left spin. You see how that works?
Yep, I understand completely.
Now, another way you can do it is, and this is a more experienced way, but sometimes he could be a bitch. Sometimes he could spawn volcanoes on opposite sides of the room. Sometimes he could spawn volcanoes behind himself. And that's when you have to make a hard turn. So let's say you have a volcano to the left. You're making your gingerly spin like that. And lo and behold, a volcano is right behind him. So the trick is you have to start straightening him up when he's halfway to where you want him to go. So let's say there's a volcano right behind him. He's already going to the left. So you're going to turn him more to the left because he's already there. So boom, you're turning him hard to the left. Now, if you keep this level of spin on him, he's going to keep turning almost in place. And you're going to spin him around too much. And then you're going to have to run him around again to hit the volcano. I'm pretty sure y'all have experienced that already. So what you have to do is, if the volcano is right behind him, and you put a hard spin to turn him around, when he's halfway facing the volcano, that's when you have to straighten him back up. Which actually, if it's right behind him, it'll look more like this. So again, let's see, he has a little bit of left spin. The volcano is directly behind him. You hard spin him so that he's starting to turn all the way around. But when he's halfway around the turn, that's when you start to straighten him up. Because as you know, when you start hitting the leg, it takes a little bit of time to get that bar moving. So if you wait until he's facing the volcano you want him to hit, and then you start hitting the bar, by the time he straightens out, he's already spun past the volcano. That's probably what's getting you. So what you got to do is, when you want him to turn to a volcano, When he's halfway facing the volcano, that's when you got to start straightening him out. And when you do that, then by the time you straighten him out, then he'll be facing a volcano that you want to hit. Now, this is the most experienced way to do it. The way I normally teach it, like when I taught my officer to do it, who's a master at it now, you just keep that little bit of spin on it at all times, and you kind of wiggle them, and it ends up being a lot easier. It takes a lot more finesse to turn them all the way around, but I mean, sometimes depending on how the volcanoes spawn, you just have no choice to do that. But generally, if you just start with a little bit of spin always on one side, whether the right or the left, and just kind of wiggle them back and forth, always keeping spin on that side. But as you notice, the volcanoes never spawn all the way on the edge of the circle, and they rarely spawn directly in the middle. So often they spawn kind of on that line I was telling you about, not quite on the edge, but not directly in the center. Normally they spawn kind of like in a ring around the center of the floor, like a circle in the middle of that big circle. So if you keep a little spin all the time on the left leg and just hit them a little bit more to the left to wiggle in, it was a little bit in, and hit them a bit on the right to take away some of that left spin and let them veer out a bit. And then when he's a bit too far out, hit him a bit on the left some more to veer him back in. Then you'll find that he's very easy to control. And again, just designate one person to steer. So maybe you could be the steer person, and designate one person to help you. So that if you overspent them, for instance, you got to bring him back really hard. He's about to run over the edge and drink. And that's another dynamic. If he runs off the edge and runs into the lava, he's going to drink the lava and do a whole lot of AoE damage to the raid. It's pretty much a white. So you overspent them, or you over unspent them. He's about to run into the lava. Okay, give me some help on the left leg so I can steer him away from this edge. And because you already have spin on the left leg, it's just you overspent them. You spin them on back from the lava with the help of that person. You tell him to stop halfway when he's where you want him to be, so you don't overspin him. And then you start unspinning him with the other leg, and then he's going where you want him to go.
Okay, so what does the rest of the raid do the whole time?
Well, go ahead and explain the ads for us, Rexton. One more time.
In this fight, we have two kind of ads. A big ad called...
His armor was on. He would only be taking 80% of the damage anyway, so it won't really do any good. So during the majority of the first phase of the fight, the raid is killing the ads. All they do is the tank pull the spark, the big ad, away from the raid and put him to the side, while the range kill him so he don't kill the raid with his AoE. And when a spall ad spawn, the raid kills him. Now, one aspect about the volcanoes is every time you run over an active volcano, lava shoots out from the volcano in spokes, like five or six spokes of lava. So what you do is you designate one person for everybody to stack on that's good at avoiding things. So let's say you designate a range DPS. It's good to designate a range because he could still hit the sparks from far away. So you designate a range DPS to be the stack person. Usually we put a star symbol on that person's head. So whoever has the star symbol on their head, you stack on this person and stay where this person is. And that person just looks out for the lava that comes from the volcanoes and avoids those lava spikes that comes from the volcanoes and avoids that. And then everybody is stacked together to get AoE heals if there's some damage from the volcanoes, and AoE heals from the spark while the tank is pulling them out. So basically the whole first phase is only about the driver of the leg running the boss over active volcanoes, the tank pulling the big ad, the spark that's doing a big giant AoE, pulling him away from the raid so the range DPS can kill him, and everybody stacking together and AoE killing the small ads that come, or the warriors can do their what's that thing called, Rexnian? That the warriors do that spin attack.
Blade spin.
There you go, blade spin. So that's so the whole time the raid is just killing the ads until the armor is off. And one important thing to remember about the volcanoes is that some are active and some are inactive. And if two volcanoes spawn at once, usually one is going to become active and the other is going to be inactive. So what you have to do is make sure that you run them over the active one, because A, that's going to get its armor off, and B, if you let the active one stay active, then that's going to be putting AoE damage on the raid. So the raid takes AoE damage from the active volcano, which is the volcano that's shooting flames into the air. So you make sure that if 2 volcanoes are up, you run them to the active one first, so that you take away the AoE damage on the raid and you knock the boss's armor off. And then you run them to the inactive one, because that's not doing any damage anyway. So it could really wipe the raid if you run over if you say, oh, volcano's right there, let me run them over that one. But if you take time away from running to the active one and you leave that volcano up too long, then the raid is going to be getting too much damage. So a rule of thumb is, if you see 2 volcanoes, run them to the active one first, and then run them into the inactive one, and that'll go ahead and save a lot of damage to the raid, and it'll get the boss's armor down faster. Now what happens is, when the boss runs over so many volcanoes, I don't even know the exact number, it might be 5, 6, or 7 volcanoes, but every time you run over a volcano, you'll see the little buff on the boss that says armor. It starts with 80, and then you run over the first volcano, and then it might go down to 72. Then you run over the next volcano and it goes down to 64 or whatever. When you see the armor come off, then it's time for the raid to damage the boss. So you ran over 5, 6, 7 active volcanoes. I don't remember the exact number, but all you have to do is just pay attention to the boss, or have one of the DPS pay attention to the boss and look and see when his armor falls off. When his armor falls off, that's when the entire raid DPS is 1 leg. The reason why you have the entire raid DPS 1 leg is so he can spin in one place and not walk into the lava. But during this period of time, you may have other volcanoes that's active. So what you have to do is really burst the boss down and make sure that you get him down to 25% before the raid dies from damage from any volcanoes that's active. One thing you can do as well is, even after the armor has fallen off the boss, if you see an active volcano up, just go ahead and quickly walk the boss over that last active volcano. So then when everybody starts hitting the boss's 1 leg, there's no active volcanoes up. So that way you have a sort of a head start. So even if another active volcano comes up in 30 seconds, y'all have really put a whole lot of damage on it without having to heal through the AoE damage. Now during this time, if another volcano becomes active, the ads will still spawn. So if during this time that you're damaging the boss legs, everybody's on 1 boss legs, and there happen to be a spark that's up, the tank still grabs that spark and pulls them to the side, so the raid doesn't get damaged from the spark. But now you just ignore the spark, because he's on the side, everybody's damaging the boss's leg. And if there's any of those little ads that's in the raid, you just go ahead and kill them down really fast, and then go ahead and finish damaging the boss's leg. And when the boss hits 25% of health, that's when it turns into the last phase of the fight, where the boss turns into this molten giant. And you just have the tank pick him up really fast, turn them away from the raid. An easy way to do this is to have the entire raid stacked in the middle of the room. So once the boss goes to 25%, he sits down, he turns into this big, he's already big, but instead of being this big kind of rock dude, now he's this big molten lava dude, and he's sitting down on the floor. Just immediately have the raid stack up in the middle of the room, have the tank go behind him and turn him around, and the tank just tanks him right there. The raid just stacks up to receive AoE heals, and then you just go ahead and burst them down. One way to do it, especially if you're having difficulty from healing, you can burst heroism as soon as his armor is off, when everybody's hitting that 1 leg, to get him down to 25% faster, so that you stop getting any damage from any volcanoes that's still up. So if you're having problems, when you get to that point when his armor is off, and everybody's taking a lot of damage from any active volcano, or maybe the spark is up and it's causing some damage on the tank, just go ahead and pop heroes and hurry up and get on to 25%, to where all the volcanoes disappear, all the ads disappear, and you're just tanking, spanking the molten giant. Or if you're not having any problems, you happen to run him over that last volcano right when his armor falls off and there's no active volcanoes up, and you're DPSing him down and everything's going smooth, you get to save heroism for when he hits the last molten phase. Everybody stacks up in the middle of the room. The tank goes behind the boss and turns him around. Now normally when I make instructional videos, I commentate on the fight. But this particular fight, I actually had the stream keep the recording of the voice on. So what I'll do is just let the actual stream, leading of the fight. Excellent. Let me start this one again. Cut in. Normally, what I would do on an instructional video is I would narrate the actual fight while looking at the video. But since this fight is a lot about making calls while you're steering the legs, I'll go ahead and let this fight itself speak for itself by letting the actual audio from the fight itself, with me calling out which leg to hit and so forth, play. So here's our kill. This is a day that we had a nice one shot. I think it was our first Rhyolith one shot, so it was awesome. So I hope you. Which one's the DPS rovers? Everybody's ready. Let's
Okay.
Stuck on the star for AoE heals.
No DPS right now on the legs.
No one. Stuck on the star, guys. Volcano.
Oh, there's one in front of him right there. Let him walk across that one that's right in front of him first. Hit the left
Oh,
leg.
it's not.
Left leg.
Stuck on the star, guys. Nice.
Okay, right leg.
Magma flow. Watch out. Okay, get ready. Adio, come out.
No DPS, no DPS. Let him go. Left leg, a little bit on the left leg. Okay, stop DPS. Left leg. Left leg. Okay, right leg. No, stop DPS.
Muzuka, come.
Right leg, right leg, right leg, right leg. Big on the right leg. Okay. Left leg with me. Left leg, left leg. Okay, right leg.
Magma flow.
Watch out. Attack on the star.
Stop DPS.
Magma flow.
How much stacks? Oh, one more volcano.
Oh, that's going real quick now.
It's looking
Okay,
good.
right leg, right leg.
Attack on the star.
Big on the right leg, big on the right leg.
Stomp.
Big on the right leg, big on the right leg.
Kill sparks. The fragments.
Okay, left leg, left leg. Big on the left leg. Big on the left leg, big on the left leg.
No armor.
The armor
no
is down.
armor.
Okay, hit right leg, right leg. Everybody could DPS the right leg now. Right leg, right leg. Pop heroism and right leg.
Pop heroism.
Heroism, everybody on the right leg.
Fragments.
Fragments.
Kill the
Down.
fragments.
Kill the fragments.
Watch out for the fire, guys. This is not the time to listen to Shaka Khan. Go through the fire.
Magma flow, watch out. Right foot.
Don't DPS anymore the next. Don't DPS the next big minions anymore. Only the fragments.
That's right. Only the fragments in the right leg.
Okay, I'm gonna get the spark.
He's taking the spark out.
Get the spark out of the group. Ready. Got this.
Right leg, burn it. Tank, get ready. Big heals on
Oh,
the tank.
nice.
Watch
I
out
can
for
absorb.
those
Watch
fast
out.
flames are coming.
I can absorb.
30.
Just burst it down, burst it down.
Big heals on the tank. Beautiful. Pick up the
Oh,
boss.
nice. One shot.
It's
Nice
not over
one.
yet. Let the tank pick up the boss. Everybody get behind the
DPS
boss.
from behind.
Pop heroism.
Carries him
Pop it.
already.
Got it
Here's the
already.
boss. Yep. Big
Oh my
heals on
god,
the
big
tank,
heals on me.
guys.
Big heals on me.
Some bubbles on it. Watch out for the flames. Watch out for the fire. Oh, taunt him.
One
Taunt
shot.
him. Taunt the boss. Taunt the boss.
I hit it. It
One
was on me all
shot.
the time.
Nice,
Hell
one
yeah.
Good
shot.